So, it's no surprise that the Arkham games are some of the best out there, each of them having their own unique stories and features within each of the games. To this day, there is still a large debate in the community about which of these games are the best, and many people who are faced with answering this question will just straight away tell you that the definitive Batman experience is Batman Arkham City. And yeah, while Arkham City is a phenomenal game, I just personally think that it's not the best out of the bunch. Now, you already read the title and know which game I think is the best, and I will give you a few reasons as to why I think that it's the greatest out of the lot. Now, I will cover most of the things that made this game great, and also the things that people hated about this game, because quite frankly, there was a lot of things that people hated. So, starting off with what made me appreciate this game so much more, was the free flow combat system. In this game, it's back and it's better than ever, in what I think is the best adaptation of it yet. Throwing punches and flying around the room as the Dark Knight feels amazing. You can easily make combos if you get into a steady rhythm, and unlike some of the other systems, this does not feel nearly as clunky or outdated. Granted, they did update the system in the Return to Arkham remasters, however, I still think that Knight's combat is the best out of the games. The graphics are without a doubt the best out of all of the games, and still hold up to this day, even looking better than modern titles today, which I find insane considering that this game came out in 2015 and ran on Unreal Engine 3, yet still had a massively detailed environment and made the world around it feel empty yet vibrant at the same time, which was unique. The modding community is still active to this day and continue to improve this masterpiece of a game with new suits and visual upgrades, which honestly make the game all the better. The Batmobile was a long-awaited feature in this game to compensate for the large-scale open world that it came with, and to say that many people had been asking for it, it was probably one of the most disliked features of the game. I personally think that there aren't too many problems with it, however, others seem to think that it overstayed its welcome. Yeah, whereas there were many missions where you had to take down militia tanks, I personally never saw this as a hindrance to the game, and I welcomed this feature with open arms because I thought it was such a great feature to this game, which obviously people didn't think. This game had many things that you could do in and out of it, like AR challenges which had returned. This time there was the inclusion of races and multiple variants of the Batmobile to choose from. Same goes for the combat challenges. You were able to choose from any of the characters to do these with, which had also been in the previous games. I personally think they perfected these combat challenges within this game compared to the others. I have not wanted to play combat challenges in any of the other games, but as soon as I get on Arkham Knight, I want to play them all. I don't know what it is, they just perfected it in this game. Story for this game was pretty great, with a few exceptions of course. The game starts off with Scarecrow threatening to release his infamous fear toxin on Halloween night, and after the evacuation of the people of Gotham, thugs and major criminals are left to roam the streets. So, with this, the Gotham police lost control of the city almost immediately. Lucky for them, there is one person who is able to stop Scarecrow's master plan. Throughout the game, we get reintroduced to some of the main villains of the franchise: Two-Face, Riddler, Penguin, Poison Ivy, and a few others. It's during the beginning of the game that we get introduced to a new villain, the Arkham Knight, who is working with Scarecrow to kill Batman and also get his revenge. Now, whereas the game's story is great, this was one of the flaws that most fans saw within the game. I'm going to talk spoilers now, however, if you already haven't played the game, then what are you doing? Because it's been out like 10 years, so just skip to the point ahead. So, with that out of the way, let's get into spoilers. It's later on in the story that players start hallucinating and recapping the story of Jason Todd, who was a former Robin and also kidnapped by Joker in Arkham Asylum. Players get to see how the Joker had tortured Jason and so on. Well, it was at this point towards the end of the game that it gets revealed that Jason Todd is actually the Arkham Knight. Now, many fans criticized the game because the plot point was incredibly predictable for those who had read the comics. Most people had been expecting a brand new story, and when it came to this, it disappointed a lot of fans of the franchise. This was one of the main problems that people had with the story, and if there are any more, just let me know. People seem to think that this story is one of the most lackluster ones of the bunch. I don't think that it is, however, comparing it to City, you can see that it is And I do think that City's story is better, however, that doesn't take away from how good Arkham Knight really is. However, I can't just keep talking about all the good things Arkham Knight has in it, because there are a lot of things that went wrong with this game, and also the things that people disliked heavily. Now, once you've completed the game, there's a plethora of side content for you to enjoy. However, one of them's going around and destroying the leftover militia sites, who have now been taken over by the assassin Deathstroke, who hadn't been seen since Arkham Origins in what was probably the best fight out of the entire Arkham series. So, going into this, you get ready to throw down with the legendary Deathstroke, and once you'd completed all the side missions, you go into the fight expecting a cinematic battle, but instead, you just get to have a tank fight with him, which was severely underwhelming compared to what we had in Arkham Origins. I was quite disappointed myself, however, I didn't really think much of it because I still thought that it was a great game despite having such an underwhelming fight. In addition to this, the game had been heavily criticized from day one as it had a shocking launch on PC, with multiple performance errors, game crashes, and problems when entering and exiting the Batmobile. The problems on PC were actually that bad that they removed it from Steam temporarily until these issues had been fixed. If you ask me, this did so much damage to the game's reputation, as I personally think that if the game had launched perfectly, many more people would have given it a try and could have possibly said that it was their favourite Batman game to play. Now, I personally think that it's only because of Arkham City's story that the game is good, and I'm not just saying this because I dislike Arkham City, that couldn't be further from the truth. I just don't think that it's as good as Arkham Knight, especially with how the game has so much content and has what I think is still an immense story that holds up to this day. All of Arkham Knight's features are such an improvement compared to the previous games that I would much rather go back and play Arkham Knight than I would any of the others. Obviously, the exception being if I was to replay them all again. And I'm not trying to take anything away from the fact that Arkham City and Asylum are both great games in their own respect. It's just that I personally feel that Arkham Knight has the better gameplay of the bunch and still holds up to this day, whereas the older games still feel a bit outdated. I just really enjoy my time with Arkham Knight more than I do any of the other Arkham games. I couldn't possibly pinpoint what exactly made me fall in love with the game compared to the rest, but I can tell you that this is up there as one of my favorite games of all time. So, with that being said, that'll be it for this video. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you've enjoyed this type of video. Comment if you have anything to say, as I would love to hear what you think about this game. Thank you, and goodbye.